So, Virgo, stop what you're doing. Literally, whatever tab you had open, whatever thought you were midway through, uh, put it down because what's coming through right now requires your full attention, not your distracted attention, not the half present version of you that listens while simultaneously doing six other things. All of it right here. Something has been said about you in a room you weren't in, um, by someone who has been carrying it, um, and finally put it down in front of the wrong person. Let's establish something immediately. The word danger, uh, in this context, um, doesn't mean physical, it means relational, reputational, the specific kind of danger that comes from information existing in spaces you didn't authorize, moving through people who may not have your best interests at heart, uh, in a way that could affect things before you have the chance to address it. That kind of danger, the invisible kind, the kind that moves through other people, um, is actually the kind worth taking most seriously because you can't fight what you can't see. And the first move always is getting clear on what you're dealing with. Um, Someone confessed something about you. Let's think about what that word confessed actually contains because people don't confess things casually. Confessing implies weight, uh, implies something that has been carried possibly for a while, that finally became too heavy to keep private. Or, and this is the version worth examining, something that was released strategically, not from the burden of holding it, but from the calculation that releasing it serves a purpose. Um, Two very different confessions. One comes from guilt, one comes from agenda, and which one this is determines everything about how you respond. The confession from guilt, the one where someone finally couldn't hold the weight of what they knew, tends to arrive in incomplete form. Messy, emotional, slightly disorganized. The person confessing is processing as they speak, not delivering a prepared narrative. And the information itself, uh, however shocking, usually turns out to be about something real, something that actually happened, something that, even if uncomfortable, has the texture of truth rather than construction. Uh, the confession from agenda, the strategic one tends to arrive cleaner, more organized, um, with specific details emphasized and others conveniently absent, delivered to the right person, someone who will do something with it, who has access to someone or something that the confessing person wants affected. It has a shape to it, a destination. And the secret itself however true in its content, has been curated for maximum impact. Think about which version this feels like, because your gut already knows. It knew before this reading. It just needed permission to trust what it was sensing. This reflection invites you to consider who benefits from the secret being out, not who told it, who benefits from it being known. Because information doesn't get released in a vacuum. It gets released in a context toward a specific person at a specific time with a specific effect in mind. And tracing the benefit, who gains what from you being in the position this puts you in, tells you almost everything you need to know about the motivation behind it. Follow the benefit, not the emotion, the benefit. Now, the shocking part, because shocking implies something unexpected, uh, something that lands in the world and rearranges the landscape around you before you've had time to prepare for the rearrangement. And the specific danger of shocking information. Information that surprises is that surprise triggers reaction. And reaction, unmanaged, immediate, operating from the activated nervous system of someone who just heard something they weren't prepared for, almost always makes things worse. Not slightly worse, significantly worse. Because reactive responses give the situation more material to work with, more drama, more visible distress, more evidence for anyone watching that the information landed with maximum impact. And maximum impact, visible, public, undeniable maximum impact, is often exactly what the person who released this was hoping for. Don't give it to them. Not as a performance of composure, as a strategy. Because composure, real or manufactured, removes the reward from the exposure. And information released for impact that produces no visible impact has failed at its purpose. And failure at purpose tends to discourage repetition. So before you react, breathe. Actually breathe. Not as a platitude, as a literal instruction. The nervous system needs oxygen before it can think clearly. And clear thinking. Right now, in this moment, is the most valuable thing you have. Let's talk about the secret itself. Without knowing specifically what it is, because this reading isn't about the content, let's talk about the categories of secret that tend to get confessed about people and what each category actually requires from you. If the secret is true, if it's something real, something that happened, something you did or didn't do or experienced or were part of, then the response is ownership, not defensive ownership. not preemptive explanation, uh, the quiet, unshakable ownership of someone who knows their own story and doesn't need anyone else's version of it to feel threatened by the exposure. Uh, because here's what happens when someone owns their truth clearly, without drama, without the visible distress that signals vulnerability. The secret loses its power, not immediately, um, but steadily. Um, because secrets have power in direct proportion to how much the person they're about appears affected by their exposure. Remove the effect, remove the reaction, uh, and you remove most of the power. Your own story, however uncomfortable parts of it are, is yours. Nobody else's telling of it has more authority than yours. Unless you cede that authority through reaction, don't cede it. Hold it quietly, firmly, without performing indifference, uh, but without performing distress either. Just hold your own story with both hands. If the secret is false, um, if it's a distortion, a fabrication, something constructed to serve a narrative that benefits someone else, then the response is different and requires more precision. Uh, False information has a specific vulnerability. It requires maintenance. It requires the person who released it to keep the story consistent across multiple tellings to multiple people under the kind of scrutiny that tends to arrive when something significant has been said. Um, and fabrications, however carefully constructed, tend to develop inconsistencies under that scrutiny, um, details that shift, um, timelines that don't align, witnesses who remember differently. Um, Truth. Uh, on the other hand, um, is consistent because it doesn't require construction. It just is. And your truth, um, whatever the actual version of events is, has that consistency on its side. Um, Stay in your truth. Let it be consistent. Uh, let time do what time does to fabrications, which is reveal them. Always, eventually, without exception. This reflection invites you to consider who in your current circle has access to the information that was confessed, not who would use it, who has access to it. Um, because access is the first variable. The circle of people who could know, and therefore the circle of people the confession could have come from, is smaller than it feels right now when we're threatened. Um, the threat feels everywhere. In reality, it's coming from somewhere specific. And somewhere specific can be identified, um, can be addressed, can be handled with clarity rather than panic. Uh, Now, the danger. Let's talk about what the actual risk is, not the imagined risk, because an activated nervous system will always produce a worst case version that's larger than reality. Um, the actual risk, concretely, um, who heard this? What do they do with information? Um, what is the specific consequence if this spreads to your professional life, your relational life, your reputation? And what would actually need to happen for that consequence to be significant? Uh, Work through that sequence calmly, step by step, um, and you'll find that the actual risk is usually more contained than the fear of the risk. Not always, uh, but usually. And contained risk, unlike the sprawling, everything is threatened version fear produces, um, can be addressed strategically, um, can be managed, can be moved through. You are not helpless here. You are not at the mercy of someone else's confession. You have agency, and the first move is using it to get clear rather than using it to react. This reflection invites you to consider, what is the one thing, if you could control only one variable in this situation, that would most change the outcome, uh, not the ideal variable, um, the most impactful one. The single move that made correctly, made now, before this develops further, produces the most favorable version of where this lands. Um, because in situations like this, complex, multi person, information moving situations, there is always one variable that matters more than the others. Find it. Um, Address it first. Everything else is noise. And then underneath all of this, there's a question worth sitting with, not urgently, not as another source of anxiety, quietly. Uh, why this? Why now? Not in the conspiratorial sense, but in the, what does this situation reveal about the current landscape of my life sense? Because situations like this, confessions, exposures, secrets released, and tend to arrive at inflection points, at moments when something in your life is shifting, when you're growing into something, moving towards something, becoming more visible in some way. And that growth has disturbed something in someone else's landscape. People don't expose people who aren't threatening them somehow, consciously or not. Um, your presence, your trajectory, your rising uh, is producing something in someone that feels like it needs to be managed, and managed through exposure, through putting you in a position that, in theory, slows you down, takes your attention, pulls you back into dealing with the past rather than building the future. Uh, don't let it. Handle what needs handling with precision, with calm, with the minimum energy necessary, uh, and then return to what you were building. Because what you were building, the thing that made someone feel like this was necessary, is more important than the distraction, um, more important than the drama, more important than giving this the months of your energy it would love to consume. Minimum viable response, maximum continued momentum. Uh, that's the strategy. The power is yours. Um, it always has been. You are not as exposed as this feels right now. Um, you are not as helpless as the shock of it might suggest. You have a story, uh, your own accurate, fully dimensional story, um, that no one else is telling can fully displace. Not if you hold it clearly. Not if you stay in your truth without drama and without collapse. Uh, Not if you refuse to give this more of your energy than it actually deserves. Handle it. Return to building. Uh, don't let someone else's confession become the center of a story that is and has always been uh, yours to write. Take what resonates, softly release the rest, trust yourself. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had someone expose something about you, true or false, and how did you handle it? Drop it below. This is a safe space. And when you sense someone in your circle isn't fully trustworthy, what's the first sign you notice? Tell me what your gut picks up on first. That's everything for today. Um, Stay calm. Um, Stay strategic. Um, and remember, the people trying to slow you down are always the ones who can see where you're going. Keep going.